administrative assistant here at Real Women in Trucking, working directly under Desiree Wood, the founder. And I am with Miss Michelle Scolari. Miss Scolari, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I started in this industry in 1977, and mostly it's been refrigerated that I haul. I really like it. You put it in there, you set the box temperature, secure the load, and go down the road.
Okay, awesome. So you have been trucking since the 70s and it is now 2022. So a little over 40.
It'd be 45 years.
45. I was going to say it's a little over. I was born in 81. So I was trying to.
Oh, okay.
And you haul refrigerated items, which is kind of cool. So that's your grocery items. And is that any hazmat or no?
I have a hazmat, but I don't haul it. I kind of specialize in the refrigerated, the frozen, that kind of stuff.
Okay. All right, cool. So that's all the stuff that I need, especially on game days.
Yes.
Pull it out of the freezer and make it work. And on those lazy days when I don't feel like cooking. So that is so cool that you are the person that brings that to us. Can you tell me a little bit about what did you do before you became a trucker?
Okay. So before I became a truck driver, I was a waitress in a truck stop.
Oh.
And of course, the favorite line back then, and it still might be, I don't know, is you can see the country and get paid for it. So I had two little kids, a newborn and a 2-year-old, and I was being divorced. So it was a place that we had a home, a roof over our head, so I could save up some money and make us a better lifestyle, not have to worry if the kids were fed or, if they were being abused or mistreated. And I didn't have to miss them that way because they went with me for 5 years. So that was pretty wonderful.
Oh, that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about the experience of having the kids on the rig with you. How did you make that work?
Well, I used to drive till about 2-3 o'clock in the morning. The kids would be asleep, and then I would get some good sleep in before they woke up. They had books and puzzles, toys that they could play with and just kind of entertain themselves. But the thing is every time we went into a new state, we had to stop, and they had welcome centers in the rest areas, and you would get a pamphlet that had who was the governor, the state flower, the square mileage in that state, and just some highlights. And so that's how my kids learned, I don't want to say geography of the country, but that's how they learned where things were situated. So when they got into their history classes and all of that stuff, they had an edge up.
Oh, wow. Now that's a clever way to give your kids a foundation. I remember being little, and when we would do highway trips, where do you recognize the tags from and what part of the United States was that in? So that is super, super cool. Now, as a mom on a truck, how often did you have to pull the horn for the kids?
Well, for the traveling kids, 3 or 4 times a day. But when my kids got older, then that they had that responsibility, or they had the responsibility of a courtesy flash. If another truck driver flashed that we could come over, they would do the courtesy flash. Or when a truck passed us, they would hit the headlight switch because they got to know where all that stuff was. And that was important for them.
Oh, wow, that's exciting. So we're going to shift gears a little bit away from you, the family woman who is taking this opportunity to provide economic stability for your family unit, which I think is really, really cool that you were able to have your children right there with you at work, especially at a time when women going into the workforce was just a challenge in and of itself.
Yes.
And we're going to talk a little bit. I'd like to talk a little bit about, before we go there, let's start with what did you love? What did or do you love most about your job?
Oh, I love the fact that I make a good living and that I love backing up. Okay, so that's something I've learned how to back in a circle, and my next challenge is to back a figure 8. But I need a whole lot more room to do that. And really, anything that gives me something to look forward to. I love having multiple stops. And my favorite is I have a 14 dropper in Las Vegas. And then I go on to California and I have drops in California. And so it's like, how fast can I get them done? How quick can I make these come off? You know, it for me, it's a challenge, and I love a challenge.
Oh, awesome. I love a woman who loves a challenge. I too enjoy a challenge. So since we're on the subject of challenge, we're gonna switch over a little bit. We're gonna get out of the bright, fun, sunny stuff, and talk a little bit about what challenges you encountered as you were entering the industry and that you've witnessed as you've been a member of the industry.
One of the big challenges was there was not a women's shower in a truck stop. And so there was a few truck stops that I went to frequently. And at 3 a.m, I could go ahead and go take a shower, and they'd put a sign on the door saying it was out of order.
Mhm.
And that was pretty neat. But the other challenge was I couldn't do laundry in a truck stop because the laundry room was in the men's shower. So I couldn't do my laundry, and I would have to find a laundromat and do it that way. So that was a challenge. It was a challenge because men didn't want women in the industry, and they were pretty adamant, some of them, and they were pretty hostile, some of them. And if you went to bed, you would get up in the morning and check that your pin was not pulled to your trailer, that you were still hooked up and connected. And so there was those kind of challenges, and then it just became more acceptable, and you made more friends, and people would start looking out for you, which was pretty awesome.
Wonderful. So the male truckers would play pranks.
Well, they would pull your pin. So if you weren't paying attention, you pulled out from under your trailer and it dropped on its nose, and it would break your hoses and that kind of stuff. So I was really careful, more careful back then than I am now, which it's not a good excuse. I should be just as careful today as I was then.
Absolutely. But so as you've progressed, as we progress forward, you don't see as much of that.
No.
Awesome. So now let's shift for just a second and talk about tier, because tier exists 100% to aid truckers who are in need of assistance. So we know that there are still some challenges that are faced by truckers entering and in the industry. So can you tell me a little bit about what tier is?
Okay, TIER is Truckers Emergency Assistance Responders. And what happens is if an employer abandons you or gets their truck taken away, I'll give you an example. I had a lady that her employer didn't pay for the truck that he was leasing, and she was delivering a load, and they pulled up and told her she had 20 minutes to get her stuff out of the truck because it was impounded. And she's, I don't know, 1,500 miles from home. You know, how's she supposed to get home with all of her stuff, her bedding, everything she could get out of the truck? And she got some assistance. And then there's been other examples. A gentleman called me yesterday. His employer hasn't paid him in 2 weeks and won't answer his phone calls. So he was delivering this morning in Virginia, and I talked to him quite a bit last night, and I told him, don't abandon the truck. You need to find a different way. If you abandon the truck, it's on your record forever, and you don't have anybody that wants to hire you because you've already abandoned a truck. So he went ahead and made his delivery, got a load up to the terminal where his truck is leased to, and he's going to go ahead and take it up there and turn it in the right way. And hopefully they'll help him get home. But if not, we'll be here to help him because he's doing the right thing.
Mhm. How many calls or encounters do you have with people in, say, a month's time for assistance?
I'm going to say probably one a week. And Idella works with me, and Desiree works with me to make sure these things are handled properly and taken care of, because there's scams out there too. You know, drivers will call and say that they've been abandoned and they need money, and they need to get home. And when you start checking into the story, it's not quite what they told you it was. So, we have to kind of be careful because we're very limited and we have to do fundraisers in order to raise money to help these people. There's so many people that we've helped, and my mind just kind of went blank on that. But we helped an owner operator that his DEF tank started on fire. It was his own truck, and he didn't have enough money to get home, but he had most of the money to get home. And right away, they sent it to him. He had pictures of the truck and the fire and all that stuff. So, there wasn't too much checking that had to be done for that. And, got him home. There was another lady that got COVID, which it's, still rampant here. But she was in the hospital for 2 weeks and didn't even know she was in the hospital. She was looking for somebody to go fuel her reefer at the truck stop. She was just needing help to get reefer fuel because she was still in the hospital. And then she found out she'd been there 2 weeks. They had already taken care of her load and her truck and everything. So she needed to be in a motel for a few days so that they could keep monitoring her and make sure she was okay to drive home. And so we helped her with the motel and food and, DoorDash, whatever you call it. And that was one way we could help. And it's stuff like that that touches my heart. And I've called her and checked on her. And, she's doing fine now, but it's pretty scary when you're 2 weeks in a hospital and don't even know it.
Right. So with you seeing roughly 4 cases per month, and a lot of my experience, because I'm learning all about some of the challenges that we see in the trucking industry. I had no idea I was an everyday consumer. With that being said, and the marriage between Real Women in Trucking and TIER, when you look at the types of problems that you see, are there specific culprits involved? Is it just happenstance? Is it bad companies? What do you think are some of the largest causes for some of the problems that you're having to help resolve?
Some of the largest problems that I see is people will go to work for, like, say, a driver goes to work for another man, and that man doesn't pay. They don't check their credit, and they go ahead and go on a 1099, which has no tax advantages. They don't take taxes out or whatever. And it's really hard to help them to prove that they are owed this money. It's, as a 1099 employer, most attorneys won't help you. So that's one of them. And the other thing is, if you have an accident, some companies just say, well, you had an accident, it was your fault, figure it out yourself, because they've got a truck to get home and to take care of and pay the insurance and, that kind of stuff on. And they just leave them out there, which, whether the accident was your fault or somebody else's fault, you didn't get up in the morning and say, oh, let's have an accident today and see what's going to happen, So some employers are that way. There was also, I don't know if you remember Aero Trucking, they were a flatbed outfit, and they shut off the fuel cards to all their trucks, no matter where the drivers were. If they didn't have fuel to get home and they weren't on their way home, they had to find a ride. And I was so proud of the industry because so many companies stepped up to pick up these drivers and get them home. And I think that as an industry, we're all in this together. We all do this same thing, no matter if you're a flatbed, if you're a tanker, whatever you're doing, we still do this together, and it keeps the company or the country running.
Absolutely. So hang on a minute. Where's the question that I was looking for? So you were right that truckers you guys keep our country running. We have seen, especially coming out of the pandemic, what they're calling shipping crisis.
Right.
The inability to move goods from one place to another. We've also seen that responses have been asked for to improve conditions for truckers. And the response has been, we're going to lower the driving age so we can get some more truckers into the industry. And that's a really interesting response, given the fact that there's not a shortage of drivers. So, what do you think? If it's not a shortage of drivers, what is causing the issues that we're seeing with loads being able to be secured by drivers and gotten to where they need to go?
So there's a lot of problems with that. No, there's not a shortage of drivers. We didn't need to lower the age of drivers. Intrastate and interstate are two different forms. And one of them, you go everywhere. But they want to put drivers in positions that is virtually impossible to do. And then they don't want to pay them to do it. They don't want to give them a living wage. Just, okay, here's this load, take it, and we'll see how it works out. Or we're going to give you a percentage of whatever we make. And you don't know that they're telling you the truth, and I guess when you look at it, you've got the Department of Transportation putting their thumb on you and pushing down and pushing down and pushing down. And then when there's a crisis like COVID, you got carte blanche to run anywhere and everywhere and not even worry about your clock hours. Just go and, it doesn't matter how tired you are, get it done. But when it came to getting COVID shots, if you weren't in your state, you didn't get a COVID shot. You weren't taken care of. The truck stops didn't have food. They didn't have restaurants open. And a lot of times they put a porta potty in the parking lot. You weren't allowed to go in and use the restroom or clean up or any of that stuff. So, it kind of leaves a bad taste. And so when they're screaming that they need more drivers, then get your thumb off our neck. Give us a chance, let us run, let us know what we need to do, and let us help you make it happen. But stop putting more rules and more regulations in place in order to back things up.
Understood. So why do you feel that it's important to, because you are a woman, and you've been in the industry for a little bit longer than I've been alive, not by much, but quite, that's a significant amount of time. And I say that as though, I say that with my youth, but that's a significant amount of time to have watched conditions specifically for women to have improved to an extent. But then there's the issues that real women in trucking deals with. So why do you feel that it's important to support their mission if, ideally speaking, conditions have gotten better for women in the trucking industry?
Conditions have gotten better for women. However, there's still the training of a new female driver, and the rape that happens and the abuse. It's not always men raping women. Sometimes women rape men. But it's the abuse that they get, and lack of training. It's not good training. It's get out there on the road. I'm going to use you to make miles, to make more money for me. And if you get trained, yay. And if you don't, too bad. And that's one of the things that real women in trucking is about, is the training and the abuse that goes on. And I support it 100%, that you can't put up with a society that's that way.
Okay. No, and you are correct. You cannot, in the but in the Me Too generation, the hashtag Time's Up period of history, you would think that these are things that we would be addressing. But so as I said, I came into this as an everyday regular consumer, had no idea the issues that were being faced, and specifically by women in an industry that 100% is the lifeblood of this country. We cannot do anything without you. So if nobody's told you today that we cannot do anything without you, and I am thankful for you making sure when I go to the grocery store, the things that I need are in the grocery, well, not my grocery store because I'm in Alabama, but if I were in California or in Las Vegas, on vacation, I need the restaurants to have the things that I want so I can eat. And so thank you. I am immensely appreciative that you have done that. And I think that it's really important that we continue to uplift the messaging behind TIER and some of these conditions, because again, I'm an everyday consumer. I had no idea you guys were facing these issues. Now, you touched on training and what training looks like. There is, from my understanding, a team driving model where, like you said, it's 100% about hauling a load and getting miles and making money, but it's not about training. So, what does bad training look like versus good training?
As an example, there was 2 women down where I had to load in San Diego. And they were, I'm not going to mention the trucking company name because it doesn't even matter.
Mhm.
But they were an hour and a half trying to get that truck dock backed into the dock. It's a horrible little dock, okay? It's not an easy back. But an hour and a half, the trainer should have been able to take over. She wasn't guiding her student. She was standing at the back and not even where her student could see her, motioning to stop, to pull, go left, whatever. And that's a case where the trainer wasn't trained to train, and it's tough like that. And then sometimes you see them, same thing, doesn't matter, man, woman, man, woman. You see them and the trainer doesn't know how to train them. They're not teachers, some of them, and they don't have the patience or the wherewithal, and that's where the abuse comes in as well. They get frustrated with their student and they take it out on the student. And if you know how to train them and you know how to point them in the right direction, your frustration level would never get that high.
Okay. You touched on the abuse that exists in this work environment, and I can't wrap my mind around any work environment where abuse would be tolerated. Every company that I've ever worked with, and even so I'm a 1099 contractor because I own my own business. I would not continue to work for someone who was even verbally abusive towards me, let alone physically or sexually. Have you, if you're comfortable answering this question, have you ever experienced any of that abuse or ever witnessed it?
On the sexual abuse part, when I was first learning to drive and when I was first out there and the times that I had to drive as a team, sometimes it was put out or get out. You either had sex with them and stayed in the truck, or you didn't and they put you out of the truck with whatever little carpenter bag you have, and you have to figure it out from there. I'm proud and sad at the same time about this, but I have walked from one place to another so that I could get help to get home. And that's not a good thing, but unfortunately, there was a time or two when it was the put out part that I'm really sad about. And I'm kind of angry about it. But when you start in this business in 1977, rules and regulations were a whole lot different. And I really wanted to do this job. I really thought that I would be good at it. And I don't mean to pat my own back, but I'm damn good at it. I can run circles around a lot of men. And I'm really proud of the way that I've handled things from that point to now. I don't put up with them abusing me on the radio. I don't let them call me baby doll, that kind of stuff, because I'm not their baby doll, and that's just one way that they start to put you down, and it goes from there.
So the abuse is systemic, and it has a starting point and it progresses from there. That's really eye-opening and awakening. Because again, coming from the traditional world of work, these are kind of things that I just go to HR and it gets handled or it doesn't get handled. But I feel like the penalties are so much stiffer on larger corporations to actually handle it. Is the same true in the trucking industry? Is there, if you report these things, does something actually happen?
So you have to remember, we didn't have HR in the 80s or 90s.
Okay.
And if you reported it to your dispatch, they would most likely, the person doing the abusing or whatever would get a slap on the wrist, told don't do it again, that kind of stuff. I had a driver that I was teamed with, and he got mad at me because I got lost. I apparently didn't have the direction right. We didn't have GPS back then. And I got lost, and he picked up his thermos and he threw it at me. And back then we had those big Stanley thermoses. Anyway, he threw it at me, and I'm trying to drive in San Francisco and trying to dodge that thermos. And a little while later, he wasn't over it. So he grabbed his hat, because now I'm hanging on that thermos. I'm not going to give him the chance to throw it at me again. And a little while later, he took his hat off and he threw it at me. And I was mad. And I rolled the window down and I tossed his hat out. And then that was kind of like the end of it, He was mad because I threw his hat out the window. But why is he throwing it at me? Why is he throwing things at me instead of helping me or understanding that he was new in this industry at one time and he didn't have it all right? You called wherever you were going and you asked for directions. And if you wrote down left instead of right, or if they were jacking with you, then, you just got lost, and then you would have to start again.
Okay. And that could be, I can see where that would be costly, inconvenient. I can see where it would be frustrating, but again, as you said, there's no reason to take that frustration out on someone else. That just, I'm puzzled at how these problems exist and nobody seems to know about it. And that's kind of part of what Real Women in Trucking is here for, to kind of shine a light on those things. We will be seeing, and we have seen, an influx of women drivers because it's being marketed as this tremendous money making opportunity. So as a seasoned professional, as one of the legends of trucking, yes, because you get to be a legend when you've been in a space long enough, you get to be a legend. What advice do you have for new female truck drivers?
Oh, I think see something, say something is a very good way to look at things. And if you can't get somebody to listen to you the first time, do it again. Don't give up. If this is your dream, if being a driver is your dream and you feel like it's your life goal, whatever, keep working at it. Because when you give up, when you quit, it's done. You need to just, if you can't get anybody in your HR, Desiree or Jess Graham, or excuse me, so many in our industry are willing to give you the phone number, give you their phone number. They'll help you work through it. They'll find an avenue where we can get you the help, the training, the guidance that you need. And therefore, you can keep your dream alive. You don't have to put up with being abused. You don't have to put up with all of the other stuff that can come along with this game. You just need an avenue to go to.
Okay. All right. And I think that is some amazing advice. So we've talked about some very, very heavy things, and I don't like heavy topics too many in a row. So I heard that you have a very interesting rig. Can you tell me about your rig?
I have a Kenworth. It's a W900, and my boss had it painted with the yellow brick road. So it's the Wizard of Oz truck,
Oh,
and it's gorgeous. I mean, I love it, and I told my boss, when that truck goes down the road, so do I. So you better keep it around, because when she retires, I retire. And I really feel special. I've been with this company. It'll be 12 years on the 24th of this month.
woohoo.
And I've just, when you're treated well, you do well, you put out more. Um, I have my dog on the truck, and that's pretty fun because, she's a fun dog to begin with, but she's very protective of me. So my boss allowed it so that I had companionship, so that I had protection. But back to my truck, it's got Dorothy, and then it says there's no place like home across the back 3 times with the ruby slippers. I pull a trailer that it's got the company blue and white, but it also has a yellow stripe to represent the yellow brick road. So I'm pretty fortunate that way.
Oh, so did he have this designed with you in mind? Is there a reason why
He,
it's Wizard of
yes,
Oz?
he designed it for me especially. And all of the bricks that are on my truck, the little yellow bricks, he put on one at a time. And anyway, he hand installed them. I don't know if you can see, but this is a picture of my truck.
I can. Oh, that's so precious.
I don't have the back of it, but you can see the lion and the scarecrow, Dorothy and Toto, and the wizard or the witch of the West. Her feet are sticking out the cubby hole in the back.
Oh, that's funny.
It's really a cute truck.
Now, does that attract a lot of attention as you're driving down the highways and byways?
I do get a lot of thumbs up. The kids nowadays, though, they really don't understand what is the Wizard of Oz because they weren't raised with it. But yes, I get a lot of thumbs up. I've had people come out and take videos of my truck, and that always makes me proud, that somebody cares enough to look at it or to send a picture of it to their family so that, they can have that little dream too.
Oh, so I am here with the actual Dorothy. That is I think that's so cool. And I want to say that I feel like I may have seen your truck once in life.
I don't know. I mean,
I've never I distinctly remember seeing a Wizard of Oz themed rig and thinking, wow, that's interesting because I live in Alabama, but I do a little bit of traveling. And there are certain things that just stick out to you
right.
as far as designs of rigs. And so as I was being told about this in the pre-interview, I was like, I believe I've seen that truck before and just kind of been a little like, that's so cool. But I was, I'm from the generation that still watches The Wizard of Oz
Right.
every so often, and I've seen the black and white version, and then I've seen the Technicolor and the whole thing. So I really think that is super magical, and I love the fact that your company appreciates you so much that they would honor you in that way. Now, that's going to shift me over to the next thing. If you could speak to all of the trucking company bigwigs who employ people, what would you say to them about finding and retaining good drivers?
So I think finding a good driver and retaining that good driver is not just a matter of money. My boss was not the highest paying, and I don't think that he's yet the highest paying, but he pays good. But the thing is that there's a summer party every year for all the drivers and their families. There is a Christmas party for the drivers. We get bonuses. And my boss will go and pat you on the back and say, thank you, you're doing a great job. To me, the attaboys that you get are more important than the money that you get. If you're appreciated and you're told that you're appreciated, it, that's more important to me because somebody notices that you're doing a good job.
Absolutely. And that rings true. So if you're listening and you're not in the trucking industry, these are some solid gems on how to attract and retain good people. People are people, right? And they want to be treated like people, even for pay. So we're going to go back a little bit because now I want to ask some more fun questions, more lighthearted questions. What is the most unique load you've ever hauled?
Okay, so you're from the 80s generation, and back in 1980 and thereon, we had foam toilet seats, the cushy, squishy foam toilet seats.
I do.
So I hauled a load of those down to Florida to a senior condominium they were building, and it took the whole load full of those cushy toilet seats. So I think that was kind of fun.
Okay.
We had men dispatchers back then, and I picked up a load of Kotex.
Ah.
And every morning when you called in, you had to tell them what your load was.
Hmm.
And I just told him the first time what it was, and then the next time I called in, and he was so embarrassed. And I said, you know what? Let's just call them manhole covers. So that was kind of fun.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And I
That's
think
hilarious.
that's the strangest.
Okay, that's the strangest. What stands out in your mind as the best experience you've had as a trucker? Could be
Oh,
anything.
okay. So I'm going to tell you, in 2019, I got to be Queen of the Road with Real Women,
Hmm.
and it opened up a whole world of new women and supportive women and women you could support. And that was one of the highlights that I got to do that. And then I also got to go to the Make-A-Wish parade in Pennsylvania for the Make-A-Wish kids, and I got a wish kid, and that was when my truck was new. So I think those are probably the highlights.
Oh,
It was so gratifying to do that.
that's so exciting. That is super. I love the fact that your best experiences are selfless.
Well,
Is that a little bit of your personality?
no, I mean, yeah, I'm very generous person, but um, it's not so much selfless because you always get back what you give, always. And the more you can give, the more you can get back. So if it doesn't come in one form, it'll come in another.
That's true. Now, is that what attracted you to be as active as you are with Tier?
Um, Cheer attracted me because it is helping people. It is being generous. And the thing that I don't like is that you have to ask for donations, but you have to because that's how it runs, you
Right.
know. Um, but the Real Women is what really makes it so that Tier can exist,
Hmm.
and I think that that's very important because there's so many people that need you, you know, that that you want to help and that you can help. So that's a lot of it right there.
Okay. So since you brought up Real Women in Trucking, and I was trying to keep it light, but we're going back.
Okay.
What issues are most important to you as a member of Real Women in Trucking?
It's most important to me that the new women out there and the ones that get thrown into this because her husband died and she was a team driver and now she has to be a solo driver. What's important to me is that they can call, they can get some help. It's important that we steer them in the right direction. It's important that we give them a good foundation, so that they can go on and have a happy, successful life, and get to do the fun, exciting things that we get to do.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, that is actually all of the questions that I have for you. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Is there anything I didn't ask you or didn't think to ask you that you would like to have documented for all of posterity?
I would like to say we're going to be at Matt's at the end of March. Um, and we're going to have booths set up both for Real Women and Tier. We're all going to be there. And I really look forward to making new friends and meeting new people and getting to give the squeeze to the people that I know, that have been supportive to me and that I've been able to support. And I think other than that, the fact that my daughter especially, but both my son and my daughter have been very supportive of me being a truck driver. And, they've had to live their best life through through strange means, but they've had that opportunity, and to me, the support and love of your family is the biggest thing.
It absolutely is. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I took a few moments with the wonderful, the legendary, the queen of the road, Miss Michelle Scolari. And I thank you so much for joining me and for having this open, honest, candid conversation about TIER and about rural women in trucking and about the trucking industry in general. It is my hope that you have a lengthy continued career full of reasons to smile. And I wish you the safest journey as you traverse the highways and byways of the United States of America.
Well, thank you so much. And it was really nice meeting you. And I hope to meet you in real person one day.
You will. You will. I have a feeling that sooner or later I'm going to have to come out of my Alabama shell of hiding to come and meet these amazing, because when I tell you, this has been quite the learning experience.